What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Run Pure Sports MLB Swing for the Fences show. I'm your host, Mangone. I'm here with Hoop. I'm here with DC. We're going to kick it off with Hoop first. How's it going over there? How are you doing on this nice Tuesday?
Yeah, it's going well. I mean, got a full 15 game slate, so we got the full thing tonight, and it's hot all over the country, which is typically good for offenses, but also leads to some pop-up storms, which we're seeing kind of all over the place. So I think one of the keys to the slate is going to be to kind of navigate through some of these weather situations because a few of these weather games are in some pretty good spots from an offensive standpoint and a pitching perspective as well. So I'm not a meteorologist, but and DC is kind of the same. I think over the years we've done a good job of kind of figuring out these situations. It goes beyond just the weather. It goes to the team's tendencies. It goes to what have they done in similar situations. So beyond just the weather, I think we can do a good job kind of analyzing these situations.
Yeah, we'll do our best. Is this the point in the show where I victory lap the one time I made a weather call over DC? No, DC is great at getting the weather right too. I think we all do a good job to look at the radars. We got the Dark Sky app that JT looks at, and we'll get all this stuff done for you. And DC is going to give us all those winners. So DC, what's your thoughts on the slate with all this weather going on?
Tough. Yeah, 15 games, like who mentioned, there's heat everywhere, and looks like a really fun slate, for the most part, and I'm sure it will be, but I think we are going to see, my guess is multiple delays across, these Midwest and East Coast games, maybe a postponement or two, but this isn't, oftentimes in the spring when you get weather concerns, it's kind of like one line of storms you can track on the radar and see where it's going to go and see where it's going to, what time it's going to clear the city. This is different. This is some summer thunderstorm weather where they're kind of popping up all over the place and you just don't know for sure. So we'll do our best. We're still 3 hours before lock right now, and it's just kind of hard to tell tracking these storms and seeing what we're going to get. So, obviously we've got the final countdown show coming up. They'll be discussing it. We'll be in Discord making final calls on all these pitchers and players according to the games. And like Hoop said too, it's not just about it being the weather, possibly impacting the game or postponing it or delaying it. You also have to take into account, if you're talking tournaments at least, or cash games, how much the weather could affect ownership, right? If you can project a stack that you really like, and you think they're going to go from 30% owned to 3% owned for a game that has a 60 to 70% chance of playing, that's a calculus that you like. That's in your favor to take those guys and take that risk to try to get to the top of the tournament. So it's not just the weather. You got to take everything into account. And that's one of the fun things about DFS, right? It's not just who's the best plays. It's who's the best plays, multiplied by some lower ownership or some upside. So that takes into account, or that factors in the weather as well. We'll do our best, and it'll be hard to get everything right tonight with the weather. It just will be. But all you can do is try to, turn the probability knobs in your favor a little bit, and hopefully we'll do a good job of doing that today.
Yep, that's definitely the best way to do it. If you guys could please hit that like, hit that subscribe. We got the usual guys in the chat. We got Steve Boyd in the chat. He says Mango has not shaved yet. And you know why I'm not shaving, DC? Why am I not shaving? Because I'm going to shave once the members stop winning, because they always keep winning over here at Run Pure Sports. So no need.
Well, you might have a full beard by the end of the year, my man. That's a risky proposition.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll for sure go with that, but we'll go with it for now. But yeah, the members keep winning, and it's not just the members; it's also guys like Hoop as well. Let's talk about the members first. We got Sam Martinez won 2K in PGA. J Love Day 25 won 5.9K in PGA. D Nasty MA won 10K in PGA. Meyer 3CA won 20K in PGA. Gav Fitz 10K in MLB. And the Hug won in tennis 4K. And not only did the Hug win 4K, it was it wasn't a live final, right? Tennis doesn't have a live event, but they had an online qualifier, right? So he's got a chance to win some more money on top of that. And we have another guy with us here right now who won himself a seat to the PGA live final in PGA. So Hoop, talk a little bit about that. And obviously your success and the members succeeding. It seems like it kind of goes hand in hand, Hoop.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good weekend for sure, especially in PGA. I mean, we had a lot of winners, and a lot of the calls, a lot of the content was on the right guys. I mean, we almost everyone was on Cantlay. He had a rough start to the season, or not to the season, but like the last 5-6 events. I mean, he had missed like 3 or 4 cuts, but he looked okay. I believe it was at the PGA Championship? I can't remember, but he had like a T23, looked all right. And yeah, I mean, he golfed phenomenally well all weekend. I got to give my boy Snyder some credit. I mean, Snyder, the run that he's on from not only like a DFS standpoint and making the calls there, the sports betting, just being on these winners every single week, I got to give him some credit because I really wasn't going to play Morikawa. And he got me on him. You got to play Morikawa. So I've listened to him. I played him. So I'm going to give my boy Snyder some credit. So that team that did well only actually had 5 out of 6 through the cut. It had Grillo in there who missed the cut, but I had Cantlay and Morikawa together. So the 1-2 punch, and obviously the Rahm situation I thought was going to hurt me because I was 35% Rahm in everything that I played this weekend. I mean, I was all over Rahm. So I thought it was going to hurt me. It still may have. I don't know, because I had some really good Rahm teams, but I'm not going to complain. It was a good weekend. Second in the 3K, and then I got the seat to the golf championship or whatever the hell they call it.
Yep. So you'll be in that. We'll be giving all of the content for you guys for PGA this week. Tough event, but Hoop will be there. On the show tonight. He'll be there with Uncle T. He'll be there with AP, and they'll be breaking it down. And these events, they're not fun, right? You see these gross golfers, but we're trying to get to that edge. And I think it's one of those where we can see some really big edges. I mean, Hoop, you always do the notebook play of the day. I mean, we're going to have a notebook play in every tier because there's so many gross golfers. I mean,
yeah, well, the notebook play is typically a guy that's under 7K that AP recommends, and that guy typically does pretty damn well. But some of these notebook plays that have been under 7K are now like 8K because of this field. It is a weak field, but this is where doing the research, diving in and really analyzing these guys can go a long way. And we'll have all our normal content for PGA, the show tonight, me, AP. Is it a major? Oh no, it's not a major. So that means Uncle T will be joining us. He ditches us on major weekends to go with Big T and JSU. So not a major. We'll have Uncle T tonight, which is always a good time.
Yep, that'll be a good time. Also, Uncle T will be jumping on afterwards with Snyder, with JJ, and Bobby, I think, will be on there as well. I typically join in. I don't think I'll be able to make tonight's, but at 10 o'clock on the Run Pure Bets YouTube channel, giving out their PGA winners. And Snyder was on there saying Cantlay, and you could have got that for free, right? Or you could have subscribed to the bet side and got that. So, yeah, Snyder has hit, I don't know if it's 9 of 18 or 9 of 19, but it's been an impressive run for Snyder. So he's looking to keep that streak alive on those PGA winners. I know we talked a lot of golf for you there, DC. Are you dabbling this week in the PGA stuff?
Probably not, but you guys bored me with the golf talk, so now I get to bore Hoop with spin rate talk coming up here in a bit. So I'll get my revenge. It's all good.
There we go. So that's a great way to segue in. Let's talk about the pitchers. Let's talk about the spin rates. Let's talk about all the sticky stuff they're using. DC, break it all down for me at the top. It's a really good pitching slate. How are you handling it?
It is a good pitching slate, and we do have some weather concerns for some of these guys, but outside of that, I mean, we have 6, I think, legitimate aces, and you could kind of go down a little bit further and make some case for some other guys. The spin rate stuff, I won't talk too long about it on this show. I'm going to have a lot more information about that after these next couple of days because, obviously the starters pitch every 5 or 6 days, and we need to see these guys kind of pitch and then analyze their spin rates compared to what they were. A couple players, that clearly started using different stuff or started using stop using sticky substances, period. Bauer and Cole are kind of the first 2 ones. They're kind of the poster boys for it. So we do know that. We don't know if they're going to go back to it. But if you want more on this, I talked for, 10 or 15 minutes on the podcast today, or last night rather, with G Ryzen. So if you want my thoughts kind of on that and kind of what to look for, check that podcast out. It's right at the beginning, so you don't need to listen to the whole thing because it just does mostly discuss today's games. But I do talk extensively about the sticky substances and the spin rates on the podcast. So check that out. Just search Run Pure Sports wherever you get your pods. But in terms of today, I don't have a ton that I think is going to really affect it. I mean, part of the problem is it's easy for guys like Bauer and Cole, who we had a sample of their pitches, from 4 or 5 years ago, and then you see the spin rate spike, and then you see it go back down in this last start, right? But for guys that were kind of like born into this era, or like started pitching in this era, which is a lot of the aces tonight, right? Bieber, Glasnow, Buehler, these guys haven't been in the league very long. So if they were using the stuff as soon as they came up, there's no spike in spin rate to see. So we have to see it kind of go down before we can make any assumptions. I think Walker Buehler is, I would say, is the most likely guy to see his stuff decline because the Dodgers are kind of notorious. They've got spin rate spikes all over the board with that organization. No surprise, right? They're kind of on top of stuff. Tyler Glasnow has super, super high spin rates on his breaking pitches, but it's not that surprising, right? When he's 6'8" and has just a monster arm. So of course he can spin the ball a little bit better. So I don't know about him. Bieber, I think, will be okay with this stuff. I did look at Carlos Rodon. I would have no worries about him. He doesn't have high spin rates anyway. Robbie Ray's breakout, I don't think is due to this stuff. I think it's just more location with him, but we saw it. I mean, Trevor Bauer's last start, he could not command his pitches whatsoever. He almost hit Ronald Acuna to start off the game with back-to-back curveballs that just never broke at all. So this the stuff to watch for sure. And I guess I'll end the rant there.
I mean, those are great points you brought up. And like, I've been looking at, betting some strikeout props. I put some up on Run Pure Bets, and like, one was Walker Buehler. I was thinking of betting his under on today. So like, you kind of make me want to look at that a little bit more.
One thing I'm interested in, you guys hear your opinion. I would assume the odds makers would know this too, right? And like, if you're looking at the totals and the strikeout props, maybe they would be on top of this. I don't know for sure, but obviously, if they're taking, I don't know, hundred thousands, millions of hours of handle on these games, it would seem like something they would kind of be on top of, and presumably we would have maybe some more inside information than I have just looking at the data. So I'm a little bit hesitant to try to overreact to it until we get some more hard information, I guess.
I think a lot of props are like simple aggregates where like at times mistakes can be made. I think sometimes they're more up on them based on how much money is coming in. I'm sure they're monitoring that on the back end, but how do you look at that for Prop Soup? I know you use Prop Soup for your kind of baseball stuff that you look at, and like NFL to try and make decisions on things. I think for NFL, they probably matter a little more because there's more money being put on them. But
sure.
How would you look at the strikeout Prop Soup? Is that something that you handle? And would you be like worried about some guys, maybe if they have a lower prop, it's because of the sticky stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I look at the props every day, and they look pretty consistent with where they typically are. Like Bieber is at 8.5. I mean, he's typically at 8.5. If he gets a good matchup, might come up a little bit higher. Rodon 7.5. He's basically always at 7.5. Who's other class now? 7.5. That's kind of typically where he's at. So, I think they would adjust, obviously, if they got a ton of money coming in on some of these unders, like maybe they'd adjust, but I don't know, because it's all new. I mean, it's new stuff like DC's talked about. I mean, this, you kind of have to almost take a wait and see approach and see who it's going to affect and who it's not going to affect.
Yeah, well, obviously the sooner you can figure it out, there could potentially be a big edge, right? So that's kind of what we're trying to do in the Discord. I'll have a bunch of sheets and data to share with you guys. I'm trying to make sense of it all. It's tough. There's just a lot of variables that go into it. Like not only trying to figure out, are the spin rates legitimately down? Will they stay down? But then how much will that actually affect them, right? Like Garrett Cole, I think he could lose some spin rate. He can still throw 99 miles per hour. You know what I mean? It's like, you don't necessarily, he could play through it, but like Trevor Bauer, without him, and his stuff isn't as good. So I think it's going to affect different pitchers in different ways. And they could go back to it, right? Bauer could be like, oh, that sucked. I'll just use it next time and risk the suspension. So there's that variable too.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something that you got to look at and we got to be talking about. So let's look at some of these pitchers at the top again. We have Shane Bieber on the slate, right? Awesome. Tyler Glasnow, awesome. And there's a lot of good options. There's some cheap ones too that you can go do that I could talk myself into, and it's a massive slate. So you can go to play any offense you want. I mean, there's so much that you can do on this slate, DC. So kick it off for us at the top. Like, what are you doing with Bieber? What are you doing with like Walker Buehler? There's a ton of guys that you can go to here.
Yeah. So I'll talk about the guys that I'm kind of taken off my radar. Walker Buehler's number one. Again, I'm a little bit worried about him, and this Pittsburgh lineup is improving. So I'm not going there. Again, I don't think he's the caliber of pitcher that Bieber and Glasnow are anyway, and he's priced right with them. And then I do have some concerns about his performance going forward. So he's kind of off the list for me. I'm not playing Aaron Nola, who hasn't been great this here against Atlanta. He's off the list. But Bieber, Glasnow, Rodon, Ray, Bassett, and Lopez, those 6 guys at the top, I think all are really strong plays today. And honestly, I kind of lean the bottom end of this range. So Chris Bassett's been fantastic all year long. And then he came off that complete game shutout 2 starts ago against the Angels. And we kind of talked about, I think on this show or whichever one I was on, we were a little concerned because we've seen pitchers that have had their pitch count like spike up, and his did. He was throwing 89 pitches, 95, and then 114, and then struggled just a little bit against Seattle, only 83 pitches. But I would expect him to be back. He's had some extra rest, and then I really like Pablo Lopez here too. If you look at what the Rockies are doing when they're on the road against right-handed pitchers, rather, they're the worst hitting team in baseball, right? And you look at Pablo Lopez; he's been fantastic at home throughout his career. He's on extra rest. And I could see him, I wouldn't say flying under the radar, but he's just not like the same level of name as some of these top guys. So I kind of like that. And then, of course, Bieber, Glasnow, always fantastic options. Bieber's pitch type, his best pitch is a slider. And St. Louis has done a really, really good job of not whiffing against right-handed sliders. And that's kind of the pitch that Bieber needs to reach his upside. I think that's why you see his K-prop maybe a little bit lower, the juice on the other side of it. But still great options, right? No problem if you want to use Bieber and Glasnow at all.
Yeah, totally agree. There's great options at the top. There's some in the mid tier too. Like I think Carlos Rodon is a really interesting option against the Blue Jays that you can take a shot on here in this spot. I think Dinelson Lamet, another guy that's kind of cheap that could go a little overlooked. That could be well. I like the Pablo Lopez call. Even Matt Boyd, another cheap guy that, hey, at that price and against Seattle, we know there's upside there for him. So I'm not ignoring him. Again, Sonny Gray's another one. You can make a strong case for him against Milwaukee. You're not scared of their bats. They're starting to click a little bit more, and it's in Great American Small Park, as we like to call it, because it's a good hitter's park. But Sonny Gray can limit the damage. So tons of ways to go. Let's bring in Hoop. Hoop, so many options that we talked about. Kind of narrow it down for us here.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of options here. I mean, this is one of the more loaded pitching slates that we've had in a while, at least. Since I've been on these shows for the last couple of weeks. I mean, there's some big name guys. I mean, my initial lean is to get at least one of Bieber and Glasnow. I feel best about them. They are the 2 most expensive, but again, we talk about on the show all the time, like expensive pitching on DK is just not all that expensive. Like 10-3 for Bieber, it's easy to get there. The 10K for Glasnow, it's easy to get there. So my initial lean in the cash game streets is to get at least one of those guys. Now, in tournaments, I think a lot of these guys are in play. We got high strikeout guys. Rodon, Ray's in a really good spot. Bassett, Lopez. DC mentioned all those guys. I like all those guys. I think they're all strong options tonight. And it's not just guys that you're hoping go out and get 5 innings and, a couple strikeouts and pick up the win. These are guys that can go out and, strike out 10 batters. So I really like that core. I think they're all in play. Rodon, Ray, Bassett, Lopez. You kind of started to touch on some of the cheaper guys too. So if you're going to, load up on offense, which you definitely can on the slate, we have 15 teams. So there's definitely some good offensive spots. Lamet, I think is interesting at 7-3. The only thing that concerns me is the pitches. He hasn't really pitched a ton. Maybe DC can touch on that when I'm done. Haney, I don't mind at 7.1K, and then Boyd at 6.5. I really like Boyd. This weather situation, though, is a little bit troublesome, but it looks like it could clear out. I mean, it looks like maybe a late start, and once this is gone, it's gone. So, I'm no weather expert, don't get me wrong, but I'm leaning towards being okay with playing Boyd. That's a really good price tag, 6.5K. Has a nice K prop. I mean, this K prop is 5.5. Juice on the over. So he could potentially go out there and have a nice outing. So there's a lot of guys that are in play. I think there's, a lot of times I come on the show, I say I have a very tight player pool at pitcher. Today, it would be different for me. Like if I'm going to play a lot of lineups, I'd have exposure to a lot of these guys because you're talking high upside guys. Like I said, it's not just these grinded out pitchers that you hope they don't get rocked. We have 7, 8, 9, 10 guys that have upside to win GPPs tonight. So I would definitely be looking to expand my player pool at pitcher today.
Yeah. Hoop, you mentioned Boyd, and he's one of the cheap guys. I'm considering putting him as the possible guy in cash that I go to. I haven't put him on the sheet yet, but I'm still trying to work it through the mid tier and work through some of the pricing. But if I go cheap, That's a guy I think I want to go to. I think he's a really great option. I thought Pablo Lopez was a good call. That could get lost in the mid tier that DC mentioned, but really do like the Boyd call. DC, we'll go to you. What do you think of some of these cheaper options? And someone like in the mid tier, like Dinelson Lamet, like he's another guy I think that he has strikeout stuff and has the opportunity to get a ceiling here, DC.
Yeah, he looked pretty good in his last start. So he has some very, very serious long-term injury concerns. Like they were just deciding before the season, like his UCL in his elbow is torn. He like needs Tommy John, but they're just pitching through it, which is why, he started the season on the IL. I mean, I feel a near certainty that he's going to kind of break down at some point. Kind of hard to predict when that's going to be. 72 pitches his last time outing. I don't really see them pushing him much beyond that 72 pitch count. Now, maybe, right? Like he does seem to be doing better, but his elbow is not healed. It's not going to heal on its own. So it's too risky for me. Like I don't want to be. I don't know. Like he's a good pitcher at 7,300. I would rather take Boyd at 6,500, and even guys like Lopez and Bassett, I think are better options for 1,500.
One thing to add about Lamet, he's only 6.5K on FanDuel. So like Boyd and Lamet kind of flip on FanDuel. 6.5 for Lamet, 7.4 for Lamet. I mean, really, 6.5 is close to the bottom barrel that you're going to get at the pitcher position.
I think you're very, very unlikely to get a quality start 6 innings out of him. I think he's not really a super efficient pitcher anyway, right? If he's all fastball slider, which can lead to he gets 2 strikes and he just starts throwing sliders outside of the zone. Sometimes they chase, sometimes they don't, but that's a good way to rack up a pitch count. So I get the price point, but on this slate, I just don't think he's got the ceiling. And I do think we're going to see a couple big pitching games at least, right? Probably 3, 4, 5 really big pitching games. I don't think Lamet has the pitch count to get that high. So I won't go there, but I do get the play. Last guy I'll mention is Alex Wood. I was on him in his last start. I've been on him pretty much since he debuted this year. He was awful, right? -7 fantasy points against the Angels after a really good run of games, including against, for the most part, tougher matchups, including 2 against the Dodgers. I really like him to bounce back here. I don't see anything wrong with him. I think it was just one of those days for Alex Wood. But going into Texas, I mean, this team has, I think, the 3rd highest strikeout rate against lefties. And I think Wood will bounce back. So he's another good option at 8K in that mid-range.
Yeah, no, those are all great things there to mention. DC, actually, I want to ask you a question. Are there any pitchers that you've heard talk about in conversations about like these spin rates going up? And some guys are just like, I don't really care. Like, I'm just going to keep throwing my stuff. I don't think I'm doing anything wrong. Because like, if that's the case, I don't care if a guy cheats, right? If he gets caught the next day, whatever. But if he's cheating for me that night, I want that cheater on my team, DC.
I know. I mean, they can't really say that, right?
Yeah, of course, but you never know if like something slips. I don't know.
I do absolutely think there are going to be pitchers who would just say, I kind of need that stuff. And until we still haven't seen any pitcher get suspended, right? Like they're saying they're going to, but until we see someone get suspended, it would be easy to be like, maybe I'll be the first one. And even if you do, I mean, 10 games, not the end of the world, right? It's 1 start. Basically, if you appeal suspension and you line it up when you got an off day, you dismiss 1 start. So it would make sense to me if a pitcher thought this stuff was really helping them and having a breakout season or something. They're just like, no, I'm not changing my stuff. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. So again, so many different moving parts, different variables here that it's tough. It's tricky, but I'm sure absolutely there's going to be pitchers who just keep on doing what they've been doing. And frankly, I don't really blame them, but we're just trying to figure out for fantasy purposes, right?
Yeah. Turn Up Todd in the chat says, geez, Mango didn't even let DC talk about the mid tier and lower tier. So DC, is there anything you want to talk about there? Cause I want to make sure you get your chance to say that. I'm not trying to, hold you off. Say whatever.
Thank you. YouTube chat commentary. We need you on when Holden's hosting. And then he really cuts me off. Doesn't let me talk about my pitchers. Really irks me, but, no, pretty much mentioned the guys that I want to play. I'm with you guys on Boyd being down there. I think is probably the cheapest I would go. Maybe Drew Smyly at 6,400. I don't think I would go to anyone lower than Boyd and Smyly. And then I've mentioned everyone else I like. It's really those top end guys, and then I do like kind of that upper mid range: Lopez, Bassett, and Alex Wood. Kind of 3 of my favorite guys in that range.
All right, we'll do our rankings now. We'll do our top 4 or 5, however many you want to give. Hoop, I'll go to you first. Rank the pitchers for me.
Yeah, so I mean, it's going to be Glasnow, Bieber. I mean, at the top, one of those two. You know, to me, it's like a 1A, 1B situation. I'd feel good with either of them. And then I think in terms of value, you know, Matthew Boyd is probably my favorite. We have the weather concern though. It's looking like it's definitely going to rain. It's just a matter of how long it stays. I'm going to do a little more digging as the show goes on, so maybe we can feel a little bit better about him. And then maybe the fourth guy I really like in tournaments, Rodon. I think people will kind of be off him because of that matchup with Toronto, but he's been phenomenal all season. I think he's close enough to the top where people might have not avoid him, but go with Glasnow, Bieber over him. So I kind of like Rodon in tournaments.
All right, we got Joey Work in the chat saying, give these guys a like, hit the like button. So please hit that like button, guys. Helps us out a ton. We got Hoop here, so I don't need him laying down the law on you guys. I'll hold him off until we get too close to the end of the show. And then DC, we got Holden saying, you need to talk less, DC, and gave me the good job. So, I mean, you know, Holden can't say a word, so you can rebuttal here if you want, and then give your top 4 pitchers.
no rebuttal needed. Top 4. I'm going with Pablo Lopez, number 1 today. I really like this matchup for him. He's been pitching well, and I just think everything lines up perfectly for him. So he's number 1. Between Glasnow and Bieber, it's just so close to me. I guess whichever way you want to lean. You know, sometimes it's just that way that I have them projected almost exactly the same. I guess slightly in Glasnow, but super close. And then I'll go Bassett 3. I'll go down to Boyd 4, and then back up to Alex Wood number 5.
Yeah, a lot of great pitching options. One of the better pitching slates we'll see. You'll see on the cash chart today, the pitchers will be loaded, right? They'll be up and down on the sheet. I don't know, Hoop, are we going to have to make room for another one? I considered it, but I figured I think I can narrow it down enough, right, Hoop?
Yeah, I mean, it's tight. It is very tough to go ahead and what do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spots, where typically 6 spots is more than enough to, come up with a pool for cash game pitchers. But really, there's just a lot of different routes you can go, which we talked about. And, if you watch these shows frequently, I typically keep it pretty tight at the pitcher position. But today, it's just a little bit different.
Yeah, and we have everyone with a bunch of different takes, right? Some people in the chat said Bieber at 10-3 is criminal. Gary says Bassett Lopez pairing for the win. Like, my takeaway from this conversation is in tournaments, like, I really don't care about ownership today, especially a pitcher, and especially even with the bats. Like, I mean, bats are like, there's a lot of games on the slate, right? I don't see one team just condensing and being the absolute stone chalk. So I'm just going to not worry about ownership today. DC, what's your kind of thoughts on that?
I think that's a fine way to go. Like if you could tell me what the ownerships of these pitchers would be, I think they're, the 5, 6, 7 guys that we've talked about. I think they're all close enough in terms of like that point per dollar projection that I would want to play the lower owned ones. I'm just not sure exactly who they're going to be. So if you don't know, then you just got to kind of play the guys that you like. I assume it'll be a lot of Bieber and Glasnow, right? Do we think they're going to be the highest owned?
Yeah, I would say Bieber, Glasnow. You assume most people gravitate towards them, and then they'll pepper the guys in that mid range, right? Like whatever guys you kind of want, you'll put in there. Some people might do the double route. That'll be more contrarian, right? If you just fade Bieber and Glasnow, like Buehler and Rodon, like if you just fade all of them, I think that alone will be a unique route, and people will do that, and people won't. But overall, majority of people will probably jam in at least one of them. You would think.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, Hoop, final thoughts here before we move on. Anything else?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we covered it pretty well. Like I said, it's definitely a day where there's more guys in play. I mean, typically I find 4 or 5 pitchers that I feel confident with and kind of just roll with them. Today it's different. I'd be looking to expand my player pool and get exposure to these guys because it's not, like I said, there's a lot of high upside guys. We're not talking about just, average pitchers. We hope they don't get rocked. These guys most of the guys we talked about can go out there and put up a score where you're going to need them in tournaments.
Sorry.
Still on mute. Mangone's left us.
It's going off on my computer. It's super annoying.
Oh, yeah, it happens to me all the time. I can't get it disconnected sometimes.
I don't know how. I don't know how to either. I got to figure it out.
We're sports people, not technology people. Give us a break.
Yeah.
So anyways, so the catcher position, let's talk about it because catcher's kind of loaded, right? Like if I just look at the guys above 4.5K, right? I got James McCann against a lefty and a bad lefty in Zimmerman. I got Salvador Perez against Heaney, who gives up hard contact, and Salvador Perez loves to hit the ball hard. I get Mercedes against, a lefty. It's Robbie Ray, but hey, it's still a lefty. He can obviously bang one out. JT against Smiley. Like the top end is loaded. Like I don't think I've seen a catcher position be this loaded at the top to start out the year. And I haven't even mentioned cheap guys like Max Stassi's a good cheap option who has been hitting higher up in the lineup and gets a good matchup. So Hoop, I'll go to you first. You're typically someone, I think, if you took all the MLB slate you play, you probably punt catcher more often than not. But today, is it the day for you to do that?
No, there's ways to spend. And really, I mean, a lot of it depends what you do at pitcher. Like if you're going to double spend and get exposure to two of these top end guys, probably are going to be looking to save some money at the position. You're looking at guys like Jeffers, maybe Tom Murphy batting fifth. We like Boyd, but Tom Murphy's only 3.1K batting fifth. Pedro Severino, 2.5K batting sixth. The Orioles have a nice team total tonight. So those are some of the guys that you'd probably be playing if you're looking to save money at the position, if you're going to pay for two top pitchers. Now, if you don't and you have money to spend, Real Muto is probably my preferred route, 4.7K on DK. I think that's a very fair price tag for him. Eric Haas batting fourth, 3.9K. And I mean, I don't hate that, but he's kind of in no man's land for me. I either want to go down or I'm going to go up. Will Smith, you could throw in the conversation. I think I prefer Real Muto. So for me, it's going to be either the cheap guys, which we have a lot of them at 3.1K and below, or go to the top tier. And I think my favorite's probably Real Muto. He's 4.7K on FanDuel or on DraftKings. Very fair price tag for him.
Yeah, a lot of great options at catcher DC. We even got the chat. They're chiming in with some good stuff. The new guy, right? Eric Haas, or is that how you say his name? He gets a lefty and he's batting cleanup and he's 3.9K. And you can even throw him in the outfield. So Tigers have been hitting a little bit better, DC. This is one of the better catcher slates I've seen in a while. Break it down for me.
There's a lot of good ones. I think you can make the case for about 10 catchers today, which is I can't remember kind of a slate like that. But
on FanDuel today, DC, play catchers, right? Like it's okay.
Yeah, you play a couple catchers if you want to, for sure. At the top, I do agree with Hoop. Real Muto, I think, is the best option. Gets the lefty. And also, I mentioned it last show, but Smiley, one of the very worst pitchers at holding runners. Real Muto steals for a catcher. He'll steal 10 bags every year. So he's kind of got that upside going for him as well. It's kind of an added bonus to what is already a good matchup for him. Salvador Perez, of course, right-handed power against Heaney. I mean, just so much upside, every time Heaney pitches. And Perez has been a monster this year. I do like your mean Mercedes. I think you'll get him very, very low owned because he's going up against a good pitcher in Robbie Ray. But Ray, the big change this year is he's just pounding the zone with fastballs. Mercedes has really struggled against righties over this last month or so, but still hitting lefties well. He's going to get pitches to hit against Robbie Ray. And I think that's kind of the type of hitter that your mean Mercedes is showing to be. He needs kind of a cookie, right? Like a fastball down the middle. When he gets it, though, I mean, the dude can blast it, right? He's got like a 480-foot home run. He's got just some massive, massive home runs. And Ray this year will attack. He'll attack. So Mercedes, I think, is going to get some big swings. And if he connects with one, we know what's going to happen. So he's a fun GPP option. I bet you'll get him low owned. I'm starting to believe in Eric Haas's power. It's just not going away. And he gets Marco Gonzalez, who is bad away from Seattle. Hot in Detroit, so the ball is going to be flying. Haas hitting fourth, I think, is a very good option there. Tom Murphy, like who mentioned, is good. And then I do have a lot of belief right now in Ryan Jeffers for the Twins, replacing Mitch Garver. No Twins lineup that I've seen, but I assume he'll be in there. Gets the lefty, and he's shown really, really big power these last few games since getting called back up from AAA. So I think he's 2,400 or maybe 2,600, but he's super cheap. Yeah, 2,700 rather on DraftKings. But yeah, he's a good play. Got a lot of power as well. So I think, strategically, this could be the position that maybe you fill out last if you want to, if you're not including it in your stack, because there are guys all the way at the bottom and all the way up top that look like really good plays today.
Yep, and then we got a chatter. He said it's Lone Wolf. He said Sean Murphy. Don't forget him. I mean, listen, I don't think it's the best day for him, but hey, he's not the worst player in the world. If it was a rough catcher slate, I would consider him against Arizona in that terrible bullpen. So would not ignore him. Again, there's so many catcher options that you can go to on this slate. We also have RPS Goat in chat. He made a comment and he basically said that he's trying to, say, why would I even subscribe to our site, Run Pure Sports? I'm getting all the goods from DC here. Well, you don't get DC's core plays, right? Which you can get over here at Run Pure Sports. And you know what else you don't get? You don't get his premium takes when he's on the premium show, which he is on. I believe the next time you're on DC is Thursday. So you'll be giving your premium takes there. So use that code RPSHeater25 to sign up and get 25% off. And you also get to access DC in the Discord chat, right? So all the DC you can get in that Discord chat. Why would you not sign up, DC?
Exactly. Signing up. And there's a lot more than me that goes on an RPS, including every other sport, betting, baseball, Discord. So yeah, I mean, this show is just really the tip of the iceberg, right? Every day. So get on over to RPS. Lots of good stuff for every sport, including baseball from a lot more sources than me.
Yep. And you get on to get JSU and Big T. They'll be giving out their core plays and breaking down the slate and just like having a conversation about the slate, which you could catch some stuff by just listening in, right? So it's always good stuff to check out over there. Get in that Discord chat. And again, use that code RPSHeater25 for 25% off. Nothing else really to say. Catcher, loaded position. Let's go to first. And at the top, Pete Alonso really sticks out to me against Zimmerman. If you have the money to spend, you get my boy Jose Abreu against the lefty, even though it's Robbie Ray. I know he could bang one out. I have faith in him, and he'll be low owned. But first base is probably not as deep as catcher today, but I still think there's some pretty good options. Hoop, break down the first base position for me.
Yeah, just a quick weather update. Probably 30 minutes from Comerica. We got rain. It got really dark, and it's raining. So,
well, Hoop, it's raining. That's good for the yard, right? You're probably really happy about that one.
I cut the grass this afternoon. Talk about some good timing. I mean, it was, when you have a yard and you have to cut the lawn, like timing it perfectly with the rain is one of the best feelings there is. So lawn is cut. It's raining. Don't hate that. But, for Mr. Boyd, got the rain. But like I said, it's looking like it should clear out. Just wanted to note that. First base, tons of options. I guess we're probably going to say that about every position. It's a 15-game slate. So, I mean, there's going to be a lot of options at every position. I like the Phillies today. Hoskins at 4.7 is a guy that I'm definitely looking at. Pete Alonso, like you said as well, if you're going to spend. They got him up there on DK. I mean, he's the full price tag. He's 5.8K, 3.5, I believe, on FanDuel. I think he's clearly in the conversation. I want to see who starts for the A's. I like the A's tonight. That's a later game, so we probably won't get that lineup. But, Mitch Moreland, what's his price tag? He is 2.7. So if he draws a decent lineup spot, I'd be on Mitch Moreland a little bit. But we have some cheap guys like Brandon Belt at 4K. I mean, that's a good price tag for him. This Lamont Wade Jr., I don't know much about him. Maybe DC can fill in the void, but he's 3.3K batting leadoff against Jordan Lyles. So I'm automatically going to have interest there. You can play him in the outfield as well. Yandy Diaz, 3.2K batting second against Leicester. I don't hate him. So we have cheap guys. We have spends. I mean, my favorite spends, like I said, my favorite's probably Hoskins, but Pete Alonso is pretty close as well. So those are, I don't know about, 5, 6, the guys I'm looking at. Like I said, I also have interest in the A's guys, whoever gets the start there.
All right, DC, I'll go over to you. What are you doing at the first base position? I got a good amount of options. Rhys Hoskins won for sure against Smiley. You can't ignore that. And if you like some JT Realmuto, pairing up with Rhys Hoskins ain't the worst idea.
Yeah, it's pretty damn good idea if you ask me. I'm in on Hoskins as well. I do really like the Orioles tonight too. Assuming I think that game will be okay weather-wise. Looks like it's New York and Boston that I'm most worried about at this point, or rather Boston. But Trey Mancini 5,400, and then same position, same team, Ryan Mountcastle. I believe you can play both those guys in first base or outfield, so you can fit them into a stack if you want to. Mountcastle, kind of a top prospect coming up. Tough couple years in the bigs, but on fire right now. Not to be the game log guy, but hasn't scored fewer than 10 fantasy points in any of the last 6 games. 3 home runs in his last 4 games. Dude's just on fire right now. Hitting in a underrated lineup. Those Orioles guys can hit, especially when they're at home. So I like that Mountcastle, Trey Mancini combination. Can throw in a cheap catcher. Severino's 2,500. You could build a nice lineup up against David Peterson, a lefty who's just a mediocre dude going into Baltimore, tough place to pitch. I think Baltimore could do some damage tonight. So those guys are kind of on the cheaper end. Ty France has been hitting. He's hitting third for Seattle. If you're not on Boyd, I think you'll get some leverage there because we do expect, a fairly healthy Boyd ownership. I like the Lamont Wade call. I mean, so many guys. Matt Olson, 5,200 against Duplantier looks like an awesome play. So, yeah, it's tough to narrow these guys down for sure. I think the guys that'll be lower owned. I think Jose Abreu. People won't pay the 5,500 for him against Robbie Ray. I don't think you'll see people play Vlad Jr. all the way up at the top against Rodon. I mean, I get how good Rodon has been, but he's still going to give up a lot of home runs to right-handed bats. So a couple contrarian options, Vlad and Jose Abreu, if you want to go that direction.
Yeah, we got people in the chat talking about Mountcastle batting cleanup. Hoop, you can confirm a dude named Mountcastle definitely hits the bench, right? I mean, no doubt. That's
I would hope so.
Yeah, I feel like he hits the bench JT Hay style, Eiffel Tower formation, right? I mean, it only makes sense. Mountcastle in the Eiffel Tower position. So, he's got to be an active member.
And we got a chatter. Holden Kushner, he says, are you going to have to mow your lawn 2 times this week because of the rain? Concerned citizen over here says, what do we do with the lawn after it rains? Give the people some yard tips here.
Well, if it rains a lot, I mean, so I typically every 7 days. So I'm on this pattern now where I've been doing it on Tuesdays, which works out pretty well. But that's the concern with rain. You want rain for the lawn to make it look nice, but if it rains too much, you have to adjust your schedule a little bit and get out there maybe a day or two earlier. So if we get a lot of rain, which is in the forecast this week, I might be out there on Monday next week instead of Tuesday. I'll keep you posted. So you want rain, but too much kind of gets you off your schedule a little bit. So we'll see.
There you go. That segment was sponsored by whoever wants to sponsor a yard segment for us by Hoop. He'll give you all the breakdown on what you need to do.
You don't want to use your Manscaped lawnmower 4.0 on the actual lawn though. That might take a little bit of time.
For sure. Definitely don't want to use the Manscaped on that. But if you do want to use the Manscaped, sign up and use the code RUNPURE and you get your Manscaped stuff sent to you for 20% off. So be sure to get that. We talked about first a ton. Let's move on over to second. And DC, I mean, again, big slate. I know there won't be major chalk, but 2.0 for Christian Arroyo against the lefty after the game he had. Smells like a great play, right? Especially because you want to jam in bats. I love playing a guy like that, but in tournaments, there's Jose Altuve at 5.2 that can help get you different. There's a lot of routes you can go. I mean, you like the Phillies a little bit earlier. What about Segura batting second against Smiley? There's ways you can go. What are you doing with Arroyo, Chalk, and the rest of the guys?
I think I'll probably fade Arroyo in tournaments just because there's so many good options. I mean, he does go up against a tough pitcher, right? Valdez coming off a very good outing. Here's the thing, though. There's so many good options at the top that the ownership between all those is going to be spread out. But if you're going cheap, everybody is going to play Arroyo, right? So I think he's going to have such higher ownership than any other second baseman that I do think he makes for a good tournament fade. I would assume he will be in cash lineups, right? Like if you're playing, if you're going double stud, Bieber and Glasnow, probably playing Arroyo. I mean, he's not even that bad of a hitter. He's leading off for the Red Sox for a reason. They like the matchup. So I don't know. I mean, it's just kind of a game theory thing, depending on which way you want to go. But, plenty of great options at the top, right? Muncy has a good matchup here. Jose Altuve, I do like the Boston bats a little bit. I know Perez, his results are good, but I don't really trust those going forward. Jose Altuve has been swinging it really, really well up against the lefty there in Boston. I love that matchup for Altuve. Whit Merrifield, right? Against a homer-prone lefty that you can run on a little bit. He looks like a solid play. You guys know I love Jazz Chisholm. So, yeah, I mean, Jake Cronenworth, I love stacking against Zach Davies. So a lot of ways you can go. Obviously, the kind of the obvious play is that Arroyo down at 2K, but just know I'm pretty sure he'll be the highest owned second baseman on this slate, at least on DraftKings.
Hope the last time we had a 2K chalk second baseman was our boy Max Trout, and he died a hero. Arroyo rise above and take care of the town and get us another bomb, right? I think he had 2 bombs. Will he be the guy to save us because Max could not?
Yeah, he went down a hero, that's for sure. One and done for the RPS family. He got his job done, and I look forward to him returning from the disabled list. He's a guy we're going to keep an eye on for sure. This one is interesting, though, because this is the one game where it looks like the weather might be the worst. So, if this game's good to go, no issues, I think, Altuve's the spend up. I think Arroyo's the guy that you go cheap. But like I said, and DC even touched on it too, this one looks like the most concerning from a weather perspective. So I think even if it does play, the ownership could be tempered on these guys a little bit because of that weather concern. Other guys at the position, Segura kind of right in the middle at 4K. Batting second. I like the Phillies today, so I'm going to be on him. Another cheap guy, if you want to go this route, Brousseau, 3.2K. I mean, not the cheapest price tag, but he's batting 5th against Leicester. I don't hate him. Jonathan Scope, 4.2K. I think he's a fine option. But really, yeah, if the weather's good, for me, it's probably Altuve or just go all the way down. I mean, clearly in cash games, if we're good to play this game, you just plug in Arroyo at 2K and kind of move on. It's almost like a free square when you're building your teams. Now, he could go out there and get you 0, but in terms of roster construction, it makes sense just to play this really cheap guy batting first in an offense that we project to score some runs tonight.
Yep, and that can help, unlock the Bieber and Glasnow route if you want, or Rodon, like the top end route. Or if you play at Matt Boyd or, any of the other guys we talked about for cheap, maybe you don't go cheaper at second base, right? And you go up for one of those other options. So, it's just interesting to see how roster construction go. I think cash games will be super spread out tonight. It'd be probably one of the better days we've seen on like spread out ownership on some things. But I do think that you will see some condensed ownership on a guy like Arroyo. Let's move on over, though, and talk about the third base position. And at third base, we do have some guys like Manny Machado's 4-1, Anthony Rendon 4-4. Like, those feel like misprices. DC, I'll go over to you. Obviously, you can't play 2 third basemen, but there's also Alex Bregman at the top, another good option against a bad lefty. So there's good third baseman to play. What are you doing here in this spot?
Yeah, just a little update on that Boston weather. It's looking more and more concerning, I think, as we get closer here to lock. I think I'll be pretty surprised if it doesn't at least start in delay with more rain coming. And those are the ones I don't like to go to, right? When it's starting in delay, like this could be one that's starting in delay and it's not even raining there yet because the rain is coming. And I wouldn't be shocked if they postpone this before the slate starts. So we'll keep talking about hitters in this game as if it's going to play because we don't know for sure. But as of now, I would be careful with Boston. I think decent chance we get a PPD in Fenway tonight. But yeah, going, to the third baseman that are left, Donaldson been heating up finally. I like him a lot against Montgomery, kind of like the Twins a little bit here. Rendon against lefty. He's also looked really, really good. Results haven't quite come for him yet, but it does look like they are coming and soon. He looks finally fully healthy to me against Bubich. We know, Rendon 4,400 against a lefty 2 years ago would have been kind of an auto play. And I kind of think Rendon is back to that hitter at the moment. So I do like him quite a bit. Don't think the public, the Joe DFS has really kind of caught on to Rendon. Looks like his former self at the moment. So he's a favorite option of mine in that mid range. Alec Baume is 3K. I still think he'll start hitting at some point. If you like the Orioles like I do, Michael Franco 3,100 hitting 7th. You'll probably get him fairly low owned. So definitely some decent options, right? That are pretty cheap, but also I think, you could kind of spend in that mid range with Anthony Rendon if you wanted to.
All right, Hoop, I'll go over to you. Again, third base is loaded. Like, it's a great spot in tournaments, I think, to get different, and cash games is a lot of good options. So break it down for me. What are you doing at the third base position?
Yeah, so, I mean, you got way at the top, you have like Bregman and VR. I mean, they really priced up these Mets guys. Jonathan VR, 5.3K. So, I mean, they have him way up there, more affordable on FanDuel. But, I mean, to me, the most interesting ones, the ones I'm most interested in, Manny Machado at 4.1K. Like you said, just a really good price tag. And Rendon at 4.4. I mean, these are middle of the road price tags for guys that have a lot of upside. So those are the two that I probably have the most interest in right out of the gate. Coming down a little cheaper, Brussel, 3.2K batting fifth. You can also play Diaz here, 3.2K batting second against Leicester for the Rays. So those guys, I think, are some salary saving options. Nothing too much cheaper. I don't think you need to go cheap at this position. We have really good plays that are priced fairly in Machado and Rendon. I mean, to me, those are clearly the two best plays at the position when you factor in price.
Yep, definitely agree with you on that. Again, third base absolutely loaded. You can go a bunch of different ways today. I do want to mention, go subscribe to our podcast. DC's talked about a little bit about the podcast, some of the spin rates talked about. Head on over to Rumpier Sports and check that out. And also be sure to give that a little, 5-star review. We'd appreciate that a ton if you like it. If you want to give us a 0-star review, we won't like that. So give us the good one, right? We would appreciate it a ton. Also want to talk about our partnership over at Super Draft. Use the code RUNPURE to get a max deposit bonus up to $100, and you can get the core plays that we have over there and plug them in your lineups and collect those DFS winners. So be sure to check all that out over at Rumpier Sports. If you haven't signed up, use that code RPSHeater25 to get 25% off your first payment. Let's move on, though. Let's talk about the shortstop position. I got Carlos Correa at 4.8K. Still feels too cheap, DC, but the problem is that game might rain out, right? We've talked about it a little bit. He has a great option that you can go to. If it rains out, because I think Correa is the best shortstop play on the slate, but let's say we were too worried about the weather, DC. What should I do at the shortstop position now?
Yeah, I mean, I do like the top end of shortstop position quite a bit. Fernando Tatis, always going to be in play, but especially against Zach Davies, it just is not any good whatsoever. Davies actually some pretty pronounced reverse splits over the last couple of years too. So Tatis looks like a really, really strong matchup for him. Obviously expensive, 5,800, but I do think he's kind of clearly the top guy for me if you're not, taking price into consideration. So I'll try to get up to Tatis if I can on at least some lineups. And then if you're fading Glasnow in any lineups, I do really like Trey Turner against him. He didn't run wild, right? I had to talk about this sometimes. Glasnow, pretty much the worst pitcher at holding runners in baseball. I would expect Turner to steal both second and third if he gets the opportunity to start this game. And he won't. It's not like Glasnow's going to be in there the entire game anyway. So he's a fun contrarian option on non-Glasnow teams. Yeah, Correa, of course, looks good. I don't mind Bo Bichette against Carlos Rodon. I could see the Blue Jays doing some damage. I could see that game kind of going either way. I'll throw my guy Brandon Crawford into the mix. He's been really strong this year. I think he's up to 12 home runs on the year, which is nuts. Jordan Lyles is not any good. So I think San Francisco could be a team that does some damage. They gain a DH, right? For a deep team like them that doesn't have a lot of like star hitters, I think that could go a long way. So yeah, Crawford, my favorite play in the mid-range there.
All right, Hoop, we might lose Carlos Correa, and DC mentioned Brandon Crawford, who I know you can get behind. So what are you doing here? Do you like Brandon Crawford? Who are the other shortstops that you like here on this slate?
Yeah, I like the Giants a little bit here. 3.8K, fair price tag, batting fifth. I think he's a fine play. Obviously, Tatis, 5.8K. I mean, this is the price tag we're probably going to be paying for him all season long. Yep. Very, very strong play. I mean, if you have the money, he's clearly one of the best spend-ups on the slate. Lindor, I do like quite a bit at 4.6K, batting second against Zimmerman. Tim Anderson in tournaments going up against Robbie Ray for the same reasons that DC mentioned when talking about Mercedes. Like Tim Anderson, he'll take some swings. Yep. Ray's going to be owned. Tim Anderson has power. I don't mind him in tournaments at 5.1K. If we get the clean bill for that Houston-Boston game, yeah, Carlos Correa at 4.8K I have interest in. But it's not looking all that good. Freddie Galvis, 3.6K. I like the Trey Turner call in tournaments. I mean, if someone's going to spend up at the position, they're just going to Tatis. I mean, it's very simple. Mm-hmm. Trey Turner's $300 cheaper. He gets on against class now. He gets the what's it called? The something home run.
The poor man's home run. Yeah, walk, steal two bases.
Poor man's home run is the right way to do it.
Yeah, poor man's home run. So that's in play anytime he gets on base here against Glass now. So. Again, another position where I have a lot of options. My early lean is probably a guy like Lindor or Tatis. Like if I can spend up on Tatis today, I'm going to do it.
All right. DC, I did want to ask you one question. I mean, I've gone through this show. The White Sox are against a lefty, and I haven't talked that much about them. Like, so I would love to play him against Robbie Ray, right? But Robbie Ray's like himself again, right? Is there any signs of him blowing up? Because I'll tell you this, DC, if Robbie Ray is going to blow up, it could be the spot to do it. So I wanted to ask you that. Is there anything looking bad for Robbie Ray here?
Well, not really. But what's interesting is he's not really himself. We've never seen this version of Robbie Ray before, where he's just like pounding the strike zone. He was always a high strikeout guy that walked too many dudes. Now he's like a low walk guy, but he's giving up a ton of home runs. So I do think the White Sox are going to hit a home run or two or maybe three off of Ray, like Abreu, Mercedes, Tim Anderson, Moncada. These guys all got power from the right side, and Ray will challenge them. So I kind of like these guys better as one-offs, right? You're trying to pick out the one or two guys that might go yard. Maybe you get a double dong. Wouldn't surprise me out of one of these guys. But I don't know about the stack. I just think Ray will be – I don't think he's going to get completely blown up, if that makes sense. But I do kind of like each of the White Sox hitters individually. And I could see Ray, the bad outcome for him, he could give up like 4 home runs in this game, honestly. It wouldn't shock me. I would like it a little bit better if it was a little bit warmer in Chicago. But, I like all the Chicago power righties as kind of one-off plays tonight.
All right. Just want to get that taken. I think picking off those one-offs is not a bad way to go, especially with shortstop being a little gross. Like Anderson's not the worst one-off, but I love the
he's a great one-off for sure. He could easily lead this game off with a home run. Yep.
Like the stolen bases that you can take advantage of. So a lot to like there. Let's go talk about the outfield. And DC, I'll go back to you. I mean, outfield is loaded, right? So many options you can go to at the top. I mean, break it down for me. Big slate. You can go at the top. You can go to the bottom. What are you doing here in the outfield?
Yeah, it just kind of depends on your individual lineup construction here, I think. I really like a Rosarena against John Lester. We haven't mentioned many Tampa Bay Rays yet, but I'll always be stacking against John Lester and a Rosarena. Very, very strong against lefties. He's been hitting well recently. I do like Mitch Haniger quite a bit against Matthew Boyd. Just trying to pick off maybe some guys that'll be, I don't know, a little bit lower owned. Kind of like that Juan Soto, Trey Turner stack against Glasnow if you're not going there. Soto's really been coming around. Cody Bellinger is back. I talked about this a few games ago before he, kind of had that big day on June 2nd. But he looks healthy to me now, taking full cuts. So 4,700, still a discount for Bellinger. And Pittsburgh, really tough park for right-handed home runs, but not bad at all for lefties. And Bellinger obviously swings from the left side and has more than enough power. So I really like a Bellinger there at 4,700. And then, of course, got to mention my number one outfield play. He's been in my cores pretty much every time the Cincinnati Reds have faced a righty, and that's Jesse Winker. This dude, I think he's the best hitter right now against right-handed pitchers in all of baseball. Number one for me. And you get him at 4,600 against Adrian Hauser at home. So Winker, my number one overall outfielder. I would take him over anybody raw fantasy points tonight.
Yeah, I mean, easy to say that when you hit the 3 home run core.
Dude is just incredible, man. He just crushes the ball every time he's up against a righty. And sometimes it's a warning track fly to center field, and then other times, he gets over the fence, and that's why he's got 17 home runs and a 350 batting average. The dude's just crushing it right now.
Absolutely crushing it. Hoop, we'll go over to you. Outfield's loaded as always, right? You got Michael Pineda against the Yankees. Maybe that's a revenge game for the other side or for Michael Pineda, right? You got all the different things here. You got Ronald Acuna. The chat's talking about him. He's obviously a great option you can go to. We talked about some Phillies. Andrew McCutchen batting 6th against Smiley. He could be a good play. There's a lot of different options you can go to. Hoop, who are some of the outfielders you're looking at today?
Yeah, I mean, there's clearly a lot of options here at the position. I think my current lean is to maybe save a little bit of money here. I know DC talked about being on the Orioles. Santander is 3.3K batting 3rd tonight against Peterson. I think he's a good value play. Sticking with the Rays, Manuel Margot, 3.1K batting leadoff against Lester. That's a very, very good price tag. Coming up a little bit more, Stanton 4K. I mean, that's a good price tag for Stanton. The total in that game is elevated. I don't hate him. Lamont Wade Jr., like we talked about, batting leadoff. He is 3.3K in the outfield. First base or outfield, I definitely prefer to play him in the outfield. I do like Cody Bellinger as well. And I'm going to have some interest in the Oakland A's when we get their lineup. If, Seth Brown draws a good lineup spot, 3.1K for him, Mark Canha, 4.3K. So the A's have some good price tags today. And, when their lineup does shift game to game. So once we get that lineup, we'll see exactly who we're targeting. But, I have some interest in the A's. Andrew McCutchen, like you said, I have interest in him. Like always, though, I mean, there's just a lot of different ways. Mr. Mountcastle, we talked about him at first base. He's 3.6K in the outfield. So most likely I'm going to be saving some money here. I think we have a lot of different options as well.
Yep, a lot of different ways that you can go over in the outfield. And when we get the lineups, right, that'll obviously change some stuff. In outfielders, you can always find some guys that pop up in there that can get lineup spots that you're not expecting. So stay close to that. But let's move on to the stacks. Before we move on to the stacks, though, just want to mention we have our premium show coming up. Again, use that code RPSHeater25 to get 25% off. Be sure to do that and check out BigT and JSU. They'll be on with Holden, and they will be breaking down the entire MLB slate. They'll be talking some NBA as well. So check out that premium show that we have. Also, again, hit that like and subscribe. The likes we're at 171. We got like about 500 watching. Hoop definitely wants us to get those up, right, Hoop? We got to get them a little higher, and then we'll get out those plays, right?
Yeah, we got to bring that up. I mean, there's just no reason not to. Got good quality content here. Got about 500 watch. We got to get the numbers up. I mean, we don't want to have to take the plays and move them over to Discord. That's all. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, Hoops had a great day. He mowed the lawn. Let's not ruffle any feathers here, okay? So let's get things moving here. Let's get those likes up. But let's talk about our stacks. And DC, I'll go over to you. There are so many stacks you can go to today. I don't think there's a clear-cut one that stands out above, but what are you doing here with your stacks?
Yeah, you're certainly right about that. A number of different ways you can go. We've mentioned a couple times. Hoop has mentioned it a couple times himself. The Phillies look really good, I think, against Drew Smyly. I could probably leave out lefty Odubel Herrera off of the stack leading off, but after that, Segura, Hoskins, Harper, Real Muto, and then I really like Andrew McCutchen as well, hitting sixth. Alec Baume is a good play at 3K at third base, hitting. So I don't know. For me, like, you can look at stacks a couple of ways. Like, who's a team I like? Okay, then these other, but like I like to look at it. All these guys look like good individual plays, right? If that's the case, then those are kind of the teams that I really like to stack up. So really like the Phillies. I think that game should be fine weather-wise. Again, we'll have, we'll be breaking that down, of course, in Discord as we go along. I like both sides of that Red Sox-Astros game, but again, that one looks like the riskiest game. And then the Reds, again, some weather risk there, but we've got, Joey Votto back in the lineup. India's hitting, Winker just crushing it, Castellanos, Suarez turning it around. So the Reds look really strong. I think they'll be somewhat low owned is my guess. And I'll throw in, the Twins against Jordan Montgomery. Some good bats there. We'll see what the lineup looks like, but I'm not a huge believer in Montgomery at the moment. And 92 degrees in Target Field tonight, so ball's going to be absolutely flying there.
Would not be a show without DC mentioning his Twins, but hey, those righties, right? That's a little the left.
No shame. I proudly wear it.
Yeah, it's fine. It's not a bad spot though against Montgomery. It's not the worst spot.
Yeah.
Again, loaded slate. Nelson Cruz against the lefty. I'll never say no against that, especially if he's low owned. Hoop, give me your stacks. What are you doing here, Hoop?
Yeah, I definitely like the Phillies here. We talked about quite a few of their guys, and you can get unique here stacking this too. I mean, you got McCutchen batting sixth, Baume batting seventh, a lot of different ways you can go. So I like the Phillies. I like the Giants. I think the Giants are a very interesting team here. On the road against Jordan Lyles, I think it's a good spot for their bats. And then the A's. I like the A's quite a bit. Later game maybe keeps their ownership down slightly. Those are kind of my three favorites on this slate.
All right. So let's get on over and see what the plays of the day are going to be. Can we give them out, Hoop? Let's give a quick look. I haven't checked to see how the chat's doing, but they're about to get it over 200. I say it's been a good day. They'll get it over 200 and you mow the lawn. Let's not ruffle any feathers and give out the plays and then move on to the premium shows. Does that work for you?
Let's do it.
All right, so let's give out the plays of the day. I'm going to kick it off for us, and I'm going to talk about a Philadelphia Phillies player that he's going to get some ownership. I'm not worried too much about it today. I'm going to go with Andrew McCutchen. Don't leave him out of your stacks against Drew Smiley. I think it could be a disaster for him today. So give me Andrew McCutchen as my favorite play to go.
You stole mine. That was going to be my play of the day. Andrew McCutchen.
Seriously?
Yeah.
On a 15-game slate? Damn, that's crazy. You guys are on the same.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like the Phillies stack for sure.
He's got the power speed. He's been crushing lefties. He can run on Smiley. He looks like a great play to me. That's wild, though. I did not expect to get sniped on Andrew McCutchen, I guess.
Oh, man, on a 15-game slate.
Yeah.
It'll be a collab for us. You can obviously have that one too. I'm good to be in your company, so
we'll give the Eiffel Tower high five at the top once it gets started. It's all good.
So, your turn, DC. Though, let's go right to you for the Mom's Basement play. I'm sure you have another one that you're ready to go. So
you know what? I'm not gonna stray too far from my McCutchen play. I'm gonna stay on the same team, batting right next to McCutchen. That's JT Realmuto, 4,700. I think he and McCutchen are going to combine to do some serious damage in the middle of that Philly lineup against Smiley.
Yeah, and he's been crushing it too. And you talked about the speed combo too. So don't sleep on that. JT Realmuto is a guy who can absolutely load up the points quick. We'll go over to you, Hoop. Give us that 4X play of the day. Who are you on here as your play?
This is wild because I had this guy pegged. This is no joke. I had this guy pegged from earlier on in the show. Same team as you guys. Mr. Hoskins batting third. I really like Hoskins tonight.
There we go.
That is crazy.
Let's go Phillies.
There you go.
You're listening. Stack the Phillies.
Philly stack it is. And Alex, oh no, he said Andrew McCutchen is the Paul Millsap of the MLB. That's not true. He's not that dusty. I mean, come on. But McCutchen, he's been getting the job done lately, and so was Mr. Millsap. Only 3-3. He got you that 14 yesterday. You take 14 this time of year in the playoffs, right, Hoop?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. You bring down your expectations with those cheap guys for sure this time of year.
Yeah,
me and Big T were talking about that, and then JSU was talking about Bridges, and we were making fun of him. And man, Bridges had a big game, so JSU gave that out in the core plays, and not a lot of people were on that. So that's another reason to sign up for Run Pure Sports, so you can get on that. Even though me and Big T did not, that's okay. We'll get JSU next time, but we got to get on out of here so you can catch JSU and Big T on the Up the Lock show. So for me, Mangone, Hoop, and DC, see you guys later.